Hey, it's Chris. Today I want to talk about how I use the iPad Pro in the real world, in my real life. Instead of talking about specs and features, I just want to talk about some of the projects and the ways that I'm actually putting this to use. So one particular project I've been working on is a new side hustle that I've been planning out, and I've been putting Stage Manager to really good use. Stage Manager, of course, is Apple's latest multitasking option, which lets you have multiple apps and windows arranged any way you want, basically. So you can see I've got an Apple Note here, I've got Discord running, I've got an app called VizRev right here, and I've also got Safari pulled up. So a little inside baseball, what I'm working on here is launching a brand new t-shirt and apparel business. And that's where Apple Notes comes in. So I've got a pinned note in my Apple Notes where I can put down all my brainstorms, all my ideas, whether they're good or bad, there's plenty of both in there. And then I'll also pull up Safari and I'll just have some inspiration going here. So I've got designinspiration.com pulled up and I'm looking at some typography that I like. And then as soon as I find some good examples that I can use to shoot over to a designer and say, hey, I kind of like this style, give me something similar, or let's work off of this. Then I'll pull up an app called VizRef, which I've featured a few times before here on the channel, but it basically lets me build a mood board. So here I've got a mood board for a t-shirt idea. This is just a sample project, and I pulled in some typography that I found online and some t-shirt examples that I like. And this group of apps all hanging out together sort of forms my dashboard, my battle station, where I can kind of get some real work done planning out this new business venture. Now, I also make use of Procreate here to kind of sketch out some ideas for some t-shirts, again, so that I can shoot that over to a designer who can do it a lot better than I can and just kind of say, here's what I'm thinking. But the reason that I'm using Procreate instead of Apple Notes for this, I can sketch in both. I just like the tools here. I like the look and feel a little bit better. Now you might be wondering what I'm doing with Discord. Discord is the way that I'm accessing the Midjourney bot. So Midjourney is an AI app that lets you ask the computer, hey, create me a Homer Simpson style donut, and it will make it materialize and give you a bunch of different options, and then you can do whatever you want with that. I'm using that as another way to sort of flesh out my ideas, again, so that I can shoot those over to my designers and kind of have a good solid starting place. And then of course, because this is the iPad, everything just kind of works together super nice and seamlessly. There's a lot of dragging and dropping instead of having to copy and paste everything. It's a really nice workflow. By the way, with all the craziness happening economically right now, inflation, cost of living, etc., if you're interested in starting your own side hustle, I made a great video called 5 Ways to Earn 6 Figures with an iPad a while back. I'll link it up down below. By the way, one of the things I can't stop using since it came out in beta is Freeform, Apple's new kind of collaborative whiteboarding app that I don't use in collaboration with anybody really. I just use it to dump out my thoughts and kind of do some research. So this is an example of a research project that I put together for a philosophy group that I'm part of. And we were discussing the topic of abiogenesis a couple of nights ago. And I used Freeform as a way to pull in all this different research from articles. You can see I've got just some notes that I made myself. I pulled in some screenshots from some videos here and marked those up. I pulled in an article, a typed article, and I was able to go through and kind of highlight stuff and scribble some notes on there. And I even took some pictures of some books and pasted those in here and was able to mark those up as well. And as you can see, you can just pull together so many different types of media, of information, and sort of create a system out of it in a way that you couldn't before. And in the philosophy group, we're talking about all the biggest questions, right? Like, what's the meaning of life? How did that get kicked off? What is consciousness? And obviously abiogenesis here. And what I really felt like is that I was more prepared than ever to kind of have a really in-depth discussion, because it really felt like I didn't have any limits in terms of what I could bring with me. And somebody at the group was like, can I have a copy of your notes? I was like, I don't know how to get that to you. I guess I could export this as a giant PDF. But honestly, this note file is so enormous. I put so much information in here that I was having trouble navigating it and remembering, like, where did I say this? Where did I paste that? So actually I ended up with this mess drawing a bunch of lines to kind of make myself a navigation within the note. And by the way, as soon as I got my hands on the beta, I made an in-depth video on Freeform. So if you want to do a deeper dive there and kind of see all the features and how it works, then you should definitely check that out. I'll link it up down in the description. Now I realize so far we've been talking about doing some work, getting things done. But every now and then it's nice to take a break. And here's a cool game that that you can check out when you need your next break. Breakshot Pool is a really cool turn-based pool game that lets you play pool with your friends even if they're not online at the same time. Kind of like Words with Friends, but for pool. The game is simple, it's fun, and it's free, and any in-app purchases are completely optional. Both gamers and non-gamers alike are gonna love this because it's just a great and fun way to keep in touch with friends. Plus, and how many games give you this, it's cross-platform, so iOS and Android users can play against each other. So whether you're super into pool or you just love multiplayer games as much as I do, or you just wanna try something new, you can check out Breakshot Pool using the link down in the description. Okay, so I do a lot of writing on the iPad, things like scripts, sometimes some articles, and my writing app stack really consists mostly of Apple Notes, MindNode, which I rely on heavily for outlining, just kind of organizing my ideas, and also Jasper, my favorite AI writing assistant. Now, Apple Notes is kind of my placeholder for ideas, and I like to just kind of keep things there. You can see I've got an anchor topic list here for some video ideas that I might create at any given time. And then when it's actually time to produce a video, I'll pick an idea and open up MindNode, like here's what I did for this actual video. It's like Inception, how I use my iPad Pro in real life. And I put together kind of my intro and my topics here. And right now, I guess we're somewhere down here about writing scripts. I feel like I talk about MindNode all the time, so I'm not gonna overdo it right now, other than to say it's really great here on the iPad Pro because I can grab something and just completely move it around. And it's a super easy way to reorder some thoughts and make that outline that you need to make for so many different things. But I think what I like most about it is that it's everywhere. It's literally on all my devices, including my Apple Watch. But that's not the only kind of writing that I do. Oftentimes I'm using Jasper when I need to do some kind of marketing. And Jasper's got all these great templates here, whether I need to summarize some content or maybe create a product description. The content improver is very useful. These are just some of the templates that you can use. I've used the feature to benefit template very often. I use that for my last course and it really helped me to kind of generate some really powerful marketing material, which resulted in thousands and thousands of dollars of sales, which I probably wouldn't have had without the help of Jasper here. Of course, one of the best features of Jasper is boss mode, which lets me say something like, write about the history of Apple Computer and say compose, and it's just gonna spit out a history of Apple Computer that's plagiarism free. I can hit compose again and it'll keep at it. And then I can tweak this information if I need to make some changes. Really powerful way to get a lot written in a short amount of time. So a lot of people use this for like their Instagram descriptions. You know, there's a million different uses. And you can see the buttons here responding to the new Apple Pencil hover feature, and it does work with the scribble feature as well if you prefer to use the Apple Pencil. So a very powerful tool in the arsenal, which I'll link up down below for you. While we're at it, I'll just mention I did design several of the wallpapers in the Daily Tech wallpaper store on the iPad right here using Affinity and some other apps. But if you're looking for some new wallpaper to set your devices apart from what everybody else is using, there's some really great options there. But the other way that I'm using my iPad Pro is at my desk alongside my MacBook Pro. Now let me just explain something here. It was just a couple days ago when I put out a video talking about using the iPad Pro with an external display and having an iPad-based desk setup. And I just wanna make sure to say I could completely get by with using that setup to run my business and run my life if I wanted to, now that we have a Final Cut Pro alternative coming, which would be DaVinci Resolve, but it's not quite here yet. But I already own the MacBook Pro, and I'm kind of doing the best of both worlds approach here, which is I've got my MacBook Pro set up on my brand new 12 South Curve Flex monitor stand, which I just featured in a Mac accessories video, which again, I'll link up down below. I feel like I'm saying that a bunch. I've got this studio display sitting right in front of me, and then I've got my iPad Pro off to the left. Now, with universal control, the cool thing about this setup is that I can use one keyboard and mouse setup to control both the Mac and the iPad. So I get all the iPad benefits with the Apple Pencil, and I also get all the Mac benefits with different set of apps, for instance, and a bit more power under the hood. Now, how am I using all this equipment? Well, one thing I do all the time is edit photos and different assets over on the iPad and kind of kick it back and forth between the Mac and the iPad. So I'll save a frame, for instance, for a thumbnail out of Final Cut Pro over on the Mac, and I'll kick it over to Affinity or something on my iPad Pro and do some edits or do some markups. It's great for just like drawing arrows or writing some handwritten text, things like that. Kick it back over to the Mac for a few other final touches, and then publish it. Now, since I'm doing the best of both worlds approach, it's funny because I pretty much leave my portable MacBook Pro, it's a 14-inch, at the desk all the time, almost like it's a desktop, right? And when I go somewhere, I grab the iPad Pro. I think that says a lot about how I perceive those kind of just intuitively and which one I bring with me when I'm portable. But yeah, that's it for this video. If you have any questions about the things that you saw in this video or how I'm doing something with the setup, then drop me a comment, let me know. Don't forget to check out the podcast and the newsletter. Both come out on Fridays, and they're packed full of information that you're not gonna get here on the channel or anywhere else. It's exclusive stuff. Both of those are linked up down in the description. Thanks for hanging out with me in this video, and I'll catch you in the next one. Later.